If time had a voice, it wouldn't whisper. It would warn. It would tell you stories not of what was done, but of what was never attempted, of words left unspoken, chances not taken, and wisdom ignored until it no longer mattered. Too often, people drift through life like passengers on a train they didn't choose, staring out the window at dreams left behind, weighed down by the silent burden of regret. Not because they didn't want more, but because they didn't know how to live now. This is where Stoic philosophy enters, not as a set of rigid rules, but as a life raft in the rising tide of distraction, fear, and wasted years. It's not waiting for tragedy to strike before it reveals itself. It's already here, quietly offering clarity to anyone willing to pause and listen. Yet most only truly hear it when the damage is done. After the breakdown, after the burnout, after the relationships fall apart, or the time has run dry. And that's the tragedy. Not that life is hard, but that we wait too long to learn how to live it well. But you don't have to wait for crisis to wake up. The ideas in this video are not just philosophical musings. They are survival tools for the soul. They are truths tested by emperors, prisoners, and everyday people who chose reflection over regret. Let this be your moment, not just to understand, but to shift. Don't wait for time to force you into awareness. Choose awareness now. Let this be the chapter where you stop surviving and start living with intention, clarity, and courage. Because a life without... Number 1, the power of self-reflection, a Stoic path to growth. In the age of endless scrolling and instant gratification, we rarely stop to ask ourselves, am I becoming who I truly want to be? We're often too busy reacting to life to actually reflect on it. But Stoic philosophy teaches us that the most profound change doesn't come from the outside world. It begins within. Think of life like a long journey through a dense forest. Most people keep walking without ever checking their compass. They move faster, chase louder paths, and follow others' trails, only to find themselves lost, exhausted, and unfulfilled. Self-reflection is that pause in the journey. It's when you stop, check your direction, and ask yourself if the path you're on is still the right one. The Stoics knew this. To them, reflection wasn't optional. It was survival for the soul. To reflect is to hold a mirror to your inner world. It means asking hard questions. Am I acting with kindness? Am I aligning my actions with my values? Am I allowing fear or ego to drive me? These moments of truth may be uncomfortable, but they're powerful. They allow you to course correct before regret sets in. Take modern life, for example. With social media, it's easy to fall into the trap of envy, wanting what others show, craving validation, or measuring success by likes and attention. But when we pause and reflect, we remember that peace isn't found in applause. It's found in integrity, in living honestly and quietly with yourself. Consider the story of Malala Yousafzai. Despite being a teenager under violent threat, she reflected deeply on what she stood for: education, dignity, and truth. While others may have chosen silence or fear, her clarity through reflection gave her the courage to act. That kind of strength doesn't come from reaction. It comes from knowing who you are at your core. Reflection is also about identifying the invisible scripts you're following. Are you chasing dreams that were handed to you, or the ones you truly want? When you examine your thoughts and behaviors, you uncover what's holding you back and what's worth fighting for. We often chase the things that are loudest, most urgent, or most praised by others. But self-reflection reminds us that true fulfillment comes from living in alignment with what truly matters: our principles, our purpose, and our peace of mind. It's about seeking clarity, not just success. When you make reflection a daily habit, life begins to change. You stop reacting blindly and start responding wisely. You forgive your past while committing to a better future. You live slower, deeper, and with more meaning. So today, before you move on with your routine, ask yourself, have I paused to listen to my own voice? Am I still walking in the direction I want to go? You don't need a perfect answer. You just need the courage to ask the question, because that one moment of reflection could be the very thing that changes your life. Number 2, the quiet power of emotional mastery. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm, not running from it, not fighting it, but calmly observing it as it swirls around you. That's what emotional mastery looks like. It's not suppression or denial. It's learning to remain centered when the world shakes. In Stoic thought, this isn't just an ideal, it's a responsibility. In a society that praises emotional expression over emotional regulation, reacting is easy. Getting angry, offended, or defensive often feels like the real response. But the truth is, emotional control is a silent kind of strength, one that doesn't shout but endures. Let's consider the story of a fighter pilot, not a celebrity or politician, but someone whose job depends on calmness under pressure. At 40,000 feet in a tight cockpit, with split-second decisions determining life or death, losing emotional control is not an option. In these high-stress scenarios, it's not brute strength that matters. It's clarity of thought and a steady hand. Pilots are trained to feel, but not to flinch. This principle applies to our daily lives too. You don't need to be in combat to face emotional turbulence. Whether it's an unexpected insult, a traffic jam when you're already late, or someone betraying your trust, these moments test us. They offer a simple but powerful choice. Will I react instinctively or respond wisely? The Stoics taught that while we cannot govern events, we can govern ourselves. And in doing so, we shape not only how we experience life, but how others experience us. A calm person becomes a shelter for others. They absorb tension without multiplying it. That is true power. Modern neuroscience backs this up. Those who practice mindfulness and emotional regulation experience less long-term stress, make clearer decisions, and build stronger relationships. It's not about being emotionless, it's about being emotionally intelligent. I once met a man who ran a coffee shop in a noisy, chaotic neighborhood. People often came in angry, impatient, or rude, but he treated every person with the same composed grace. I asked him once how he stayed so calm. He smiled and said, "Because I refuse to let someone else's storm control my weather." That stayed with me, because in the end, emotional mastery isn't about the world being quiet, it's about you being quiet inside the noise. This kind of inner control doesn't develop overnight. It's a discipline, like physical training. Just as muscles grow through resistance, emotional strength builds through adversity. Every stressful encounter, every moment when you want to lash out but choose to pause instead, those are training grounds. And over time, that pause becomes a superpower. People begin to notice. You become the calm in the chaos, the one others look to when emotions run high. But emotional mastery is not just about self-protection. It's also about influence. When you hold steady in the face of conflict, you create space for others to de-escalate. You lead by example, showing that strength and gentleness are not opposites but allies. In families, in leadership, in friendships, emotional control doesn't push people away, it draws them in. It fosters trust, empathy, and respect. In mastering yourself, you don't just change your life, you elevate everyone around you. So take a moment. Think of the last time your emotions took the wheel. What did it cost you? Could it have gone differently? Your emotions are powerful, but they're not your master. They're messengers, not rulers. Listen to them, but lead them. And as we move forward on this journey, ask yourself, what would my life look like if I could master my emotions, not once, but every day? Number 3, the compass within. You wake up one morning and realize you've been walking for years, with speed, with purpose, but without a map. The path behind you is long and winding, full of detours and sharp turns. You thought you were moving forward, but now you're not sure where you were headed or why. That moment is called awakening. In Stoic thought, values are not decorations we wear to look noble. They are the compass we carry to know who we are when the world forgets us. The Stoics never promised ease. They promised clarity, the kind that comes only when you're willing to stop, stand still, and ask yourself, what do I truly believe in? Have I traded truth for comfort? Let me tell you a different kind of story. Not about fame or revolution, but about a quiet decision made in silence. A man worked for years at a company that asked him to bend the truth. Not in obvious ways, but subtly, just enough to make him feel hollow. Each day he smiled. Each day something inside him dimmed, until one morning he couldn't pretend anymore. He resigned without a plan, not out of anger, but integrity. That decision didn't make headlines, but it gave him back his soul. You see, value alignment isn't always about grand sacrifice. Sometimes it's choosing not to laugh at the cruel joke. Sometimes it's walking away when staying would break you. It's telling the truth when your voice shakes. It's remembering that peace is not the absence of struggle, but the presence of honesty in how you live. And here's the quiet truth. When you begin to live in alignment with your values, you'll lose things. Comfort, approval, maybe even relationships. But what you gain is unshakable. You begin to sleep better. You speak with fewer words, but more weight. You stop needing to impress people because you finally respect yourself. The world might not reward you immediately, but life has a strange way of circling back and honoring those who stay true, even when no one's watching. This inner alignment doesn't just shape your choices, it radiates. People feel it, children observe it, strangers sense it. Like a lighthouse standing firm in a storm, your integrity becomes a quiet form of leadership. Not through authority, but authenticity. And in a world hungry for something real, that might be the greatest gift you could offer. Because living by your values doesn't just heal you, it gives others permission to do the same. Even the Stoics struggled. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in history, once wrote to himself, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." He was speaking not to an empire, but to the man in the mirror. So today, ask not what the world wants from you. Ask what your soul needs from you. Ask, what do I stand for? When I'm gone, what do I want to be remembered for? Am I living in a way that aligns with that answer? You don't need applause. You don't need permission. You just need the courage to follow your compass. Because even if no one sees your path, your soul does, and it will thank you. Number 4, the mirror and the map, owning your life. Imagine standing in front of a mirror that reflects not your face, but your choices. Every step you've taken, every word you've spoken, every moment you blamed the world or took action, it's all there. Now ask yourself, if life handed you both the mirror and the map, would you use them? Would you dare to admit that the route you've taken is the one you chose? A man stands at the crossroads of who he is and who he could be, holding nothing but the weight of his choices. The world spins around her, fast and loud, but inside, clarity arrives the moment she takes ownership of her silence. A hand reaches for the light switch, not to chase away the darkness, but to see clearly the room he built himself. Every step on the path echoes a question. Are you walking forward or just running from your own reflection? The storm doesn't stop, but he no longer fears the rain, because this time he brought the compass. Life doesn't promise us clarity. It gives us storms, delays, detours. But here's the truth most people avoid. No one is coming to save you. No perfect mentor, no lucky break, no ideal time. The moment you realize that you are both the sailor and the storm reader of your journey, life changes. Stoic wisdom teaches this not as punishment, but as power. Consider a man named James, who lost everything in a business collapse: money, reputation, direction. He could have blamed the economy, the market, even his partners. But instead, he took a notebook and began each page with one sentence. What could I have done differently? That simple habit turned his downfall into a blueprint. Today, he leads with calm, not because life got easier, but because he stopped outsourcing his responsibility. When we fully embrace personal responsibility, something remarkable happens. Blame loses its power over us. The energy we once spent justifying our pain, explaining our shortcomings, or resenting others suddenly becomes available for something greater: transformation. Responsibility is not a punishment for failing. It's the invitation to start again, this time with awareness. It's the subtle difference between saying, "Why is this happening to me?" and asking, "What can I do with this?" Even in spiritual traditions, the call to take ownership of our lives is clear. not through guilt, but through courage. Taking responsibility isn't about being perfect. It's about being present. It's about choosing growth over excuses, humility over pride, and forward motion over self-pity. The more we practice this mindset, the more we realize freedom was never out there. It was always in the choices we make every single day. You don't need to wait for tragedy to learn this. Responsibility isn't a weight, it's your wings. Every time you own your actions, you reclaim your ability to rewrite your next chapter. So the next time life throws chaos your way, don't look for someone to blame. Look in the mirror, then at the map. You're already holding both. Number 5, relationships. When you walk through life, it's not the achievements or possessions that define the richness of your journey, it's the people who walk beside you. Stoicism doesn't ask us to detach from others. Rather, it invites us to connect more intentionally. Relationships, in the Stoic view, are not distractions from the self, but reflections of it. They are arenas where our values are tested, refined, and revealed. In our connections, we either embody patience and humility or expose our ego and impatience. Ask yourself, when was the last time you truly listened without thinking of how to respond? Relationships flourish not through grand gestures, but through the small, consistent choices we make to be present, to be kind, to be honest. True strength lies not in dominance or control, but in the courage to understand, forgive, and grow alongside others. Every argument is an invitation to deepen understanding. Every difficult moment with someone is a mirror held up to your own character. Let's look at an unlikely symbol of transformative relationships: the quiet bond between Fred Rogers, yes, Mr. Rogers, and the people he served. He didn't lead armies or run governments. He sat on a television set, looked into a camera, and made every child feel seen, heard, and valued. His philosophy was grounded in radical gentleness. He once said, "Love isn't a state of perfect caring. It is an active noun like struggle." Through compassion, he showed that relationships can be the source of incredible healing, not through power, but through presence. Now contrast that with today's digital age. We've become hyper-connected, yet emotionally starved. Notifications light up our screens, but not our hearts. We scroll through curated lives, mistaking comments and likes for genuine understanding. But no emoji can substitute for a hand held during grief. No post can replace a real conversation that says, "I see you, I'm here for you." In this environment, reclaiming the depth of relationships becomes a revolutionary act. Meaningful relationships are forged in honesty and nurtured through consistency. It's not about how many people you know, it's about how deeply you know a few. We must ask, are we investing in people who uplift our values? Are we becoming that person for someone else? Stoicism urges us to be the kind of friend we hope to find: steadfast, open-hearted, and resilient. Connection, when rooted in virtue, becomes an act of both courage and beauty. So take a moment, not to text, not to scroll, but to truly connect. Call your friend. Look your partner in the eyes. Apologize if you need to. Express love without waiting for the perfect moment. Because the truth is, these relationships aren't just part of life, they are life. Now we'd love to hear your voice. What does real connection mean to you? How are you building it, nurturing it, or reclaiming it in your daily life? Let's grow in wisdom together, one real relationship at a time. And before we go, let's remember one of Seneca's simplest truths. Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness. You don't need to search far to make a difference. Start with the person next to you, and don't overlook the relationship you have with yourself. Often we rush to give others love, forgiveness, or patience that we deny our own soul. But self-respect forms the backbone of how we relate to others. If you speak harshly to yourself, you may unknowingly project that voice onto the world. Marcus Aurelius wrote often in his meditations, not for others, but to center his own mind, to remind himself to be gentle, disciplined, and aligned. Your inner dialogue sets the tone for your external ones. Tend to it like a sacred garden. Finally, remember that every person you encounter is carrying an invisible weight. The angry stranger, the withdrawn colleague, the overly critical parent, they too are wrestling with fears and doubts you cannot see. To approach each relationship with empathy rather than judgment is to walk the Stoic path with true wisdom. Relationships are less about changing others and more about becoming the kind of person who can meet the world with openness and strength. That is the Stoics' quiet revolution, building a life of calm, courageous connection in a world that so often forgets the power of simply being human, together. Number 6, the power beyond fear. Fear has a cunning way of disguising itself as logic. It talks us out of action, out of growth, and often out of becoming who we're meant to be. But fear is not an enemy, it's an invitation. The Stoics taught that fear should not be avoided, but examined. Only by confronting it do we discover the strength hidden inside us. We've all experienced moments when we stood on the edge of something greater, a chance to speak, to begin, to change, and something inside us whispered, "Not yet." Those whispers feel safe, but they shrink us. Stoic wisdom insists, don't run from the fear, step through it, for only on the other side does freedom live. Consider the story of Rosa Parks. In 1955, in Montgomery, Alabama, she refused to give up her seat to a white man on a segregated bus. That simple act, seated in defiance, became one of the most powerful moments in the American civil rights movement. But make no mistake, it was not easy. Parks was not reckless. She was aware of the danger, yet she chose to act in spite of fear, not because it was absent. Rosa's courage didn't roar, it sat still. And in that stillness, she shifted the course of history. Her defiance was not just about a seat, it was about human dignity and the inner fire that refuses to be extinguished by fear. "I have learned over the years," she later said, "that when one's mind is made up, this diminishes fear." In today's world, fear doesn't always come in dramatic forms. Sometimes it's fear of being misunderstood, of making the wrong move, of not being good enough. But if we wait for fear to disappear, we wait forever. The only way is through. Even small acts, starting a new project, having a difficult conversation, changing course, can be powerful revolutions when done in the presence of fear. Another incredible example is Alex Honnold, the professional climber who famously scaled El Capitan without ropes in the documentary Free Solo. To climb a 3,000-foot wall with no safety gear is the stuff of nightmares for most. But for Honnold, it was the culmination of calculated courage. He didn't erase fear. He trained his mind to coexist with it, to operate clearly despite it. That's what Stoicism teaches, not to be fearless, but to be fear-wise. Jesus also taught us that faith overcomes fear. When he said, "Do not be afraid, only believe," it wasn't a suggestion, it was a call to reclaim our peace through trust. Belief becomes our shield and our light. Fear may still walk beside us, but it no longer leads. Ask yourself, what have you delayed because of fear? What dream have you buried because of doubt? Today you can choose differently. You don't need to silence fear, only to step past it. The road to growth is not paved with comfort. It is marked by small, bold acts of defiance against fear. Whether it's a conversation, a commitment, or a quiet decision, the act of doing what you're afraid of is often the first step toward the life you were meant to live. Number 7, living in the present. A young man sat by a river, tossing pebbles into the water, while his mind wandered between regrets of yesterday and worries about tomorrow. An old monk passing by noticed his troubled face and said, "Son, you're missing the music of the river. The water flows only now, not yesterday, not tomorrow. Why aren't you flowing with it?" We often live like that young man, physically present, yet mentally elsewhere. Stoic philosophy teaches that now is all we ever truly possess. The past is memory, the future is imagination, but the present is real. Marcus Aurelius emphasized this when he said that each day should be lived as if it were our last, not in fear, but in fullness. Living in the present doesn't mean ignoring our past or neglecting the future. It means focusing our attention and energy on what we can do now. This mindset allows us to act with purpose, appreciate life more deeply, and respond more clearly to what matters. When we are rooted in the present moment, we become more aware, less reactive, and more peaceful. Take, for instance, Eckhart Tolle, the spiritual teacher and author of The Power of Now. At a point in his life, Tolle was overwhelmed with anxiety and depression. One day he had a sudden realization. His suffering came not from his circumstances, but from his constant mental chatter about the past and future. From that moment forward, he dedicated his life to living in the now. His teachings have since helped millions shift their awareness from distraction to presence. Living in the present also allows us to enjoy the simple moments that often go unnoticed. A smile from a stranger, the warmth of sunlight on your face, or the quiet pause before you begin your day. These are not small things, they are life itself. When you begin to cherish them, your world expands in clarity and richness. Even spiritually, the present holds great significance. In the Bible, Jesus says, "This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it." Not tomorrow, not some perfect moment in the future. This day. That divine focus on now is a sacred reminder that time is not just passing by. It is unfolding meaningfully in every breath we take. So ask yourself, are you waiting for the perfect moment to live? Or are you truly here, right now? Life is not something ahead of you. It's happening in this very second. Take a deep breath. Feel it. This is your moment. Don't let it pass unnoticed. Life doesn't pause and wait for us to learn its most valuable lessons. Often, they come too late. But Stoic philosophy, with its vivid and powerful principles, serves as a timeless guide, reminding us that time is the most precious asset we have. Don't let late regrets weigh heavily on your soul. Instead, learn to master your emotions, stay true to your values, confront and rise above your fears, and most importantly, cherish each present moment. Life gains its deepest meaning when it is lived with courage, awareness, and respect for both ourselves and the people around us. If you've truly listened to and absorbed the Stoic lessons shared here, you'll find yourself living with fewer regrets. Begin now, live fully, and align your actions with what you genuinely believe in. Don't let another day slip by in distraction or delay, because it's in these ordinary moments that you shape the life you'll one day look back on with pride. Let each small decision you make today become a building block toward a life of purpose, depth, and peace. And as you grow, help others do the same. Like, comment, share, and subscribe to help spread this timeless philosophy to more hearts and minds. Be sure to explore the other Stoic lessons featured at the end of this video. Together, we can cultivate wisdom, resilience, and compassion, and in doing so, make the world a better, more thoughtful place for everyone.